Good to go? All right. Definitely had been for us a challenging 3 weeks, and we talked about the urgency and what we wanted to see and really dedicating the performers to one another. That's really what we talked about. I thought Bobby was the catalyst at the very beginning of the week and talking to his teammates, which he doesn't do very often. So for him, I knew there was something there that he wanted to share. And it's so impactful when it can come from a teammate. And I thought he was the one that set this week off and set it in motion. Like I said, it's been a challenging few weeks, and to not have the same urgency that we needed last week, I saw it there in abundance today. The way we started, the energy, the toughness, that was just exactly what we'd hoped we'd see from the guys, because it's a long stretch when you go 13 or so in a row, and so to see the response today, that was a big deal, and especially offensively running the ball, and you'd seen that at practice as an extra emphasis for us, and so couldn't be more pumped for these guys, and seeing that, I thought Bobby was the one. He led the way this week.
Obviously, talk about or if you could talk a little bit more about what Bobby said to create the energy, and then what did you guys do as coaches, whether it's play calling, how you organize practice, anything that you may have changed to or emphasize to enhance and create that urgency to lead up to today?
A lot, I would say. One, he had talked about the sacrifice it takes from all of them. He wasn't pointing or anything of that nature, just knowing that we're to realize what we can be as a group, and so whatever that is for any of them. And so it just carries more weight when it comes from somebody that's done that at that level. And I believe in the locker room I discussed that this is 13 years straight of 100 tackles. And so that's a remarkable tackler. And so that's consistent. And so when you do something like that over and over and over again, it just breeds consistency within you and that credibility of how you do things. And he's an excellent example of that. I wouldn't say we changed a lot, but we did have full practice. We emphasized a lot in the run game on both sides as it got into December football. We had talked about the importance of that, knowing that that's going to be the way it has to go. And I love today that the lead sled dogs led the way, and that's Ertz's and McLaurin's and Wagner's and Payne's and others. They led the way, and that's what you want when you're going through the challenging times. That the lead sled dogs, they're out in front, and I think Wagner and Ertz and others were a classic example of that. And it was just that type of performance to see those guys lead the way.
And on that front, Terry just told us that you and Cliff had talked to him at some point this week, saying like, "Hey, we're going to try to get you involved a little bit earlier." How much do you get involved on those types of things as the head coach normally, and was there anything that was maybe a little bit different about that, or is that just kind of something you and Cliff talked about in the course of your normal discussions that you have in any other week?
In the normal discussions as it goes through the week, it's by the game plan. It's what we think we need to do, and I thought it was came from Cliff, and more than anything, what do you think of this? And he'll hit me on some offensive things, and I'll give him the feedback on that. But that was 100% from him, and just loved the way the guys started, and I felt that from Brian. And man, is he a difference maker in terms of being downhill and going. This has been a good front against the run. It's been hard, to get yards and the short yardage play. So the guys really dug in. I thought they had a good plan, and number 5 felt electric tonight. In terms of connecting, making plays, being decisive, and so all those things, when it all comes together, it's a big deal. Especially, it takes a lot, when you're in those tough, dark, couple weeks, and there's something good just beyond the other side of the really hard shit, that you keep pushing it through. And I try to be really consistent with our standard of how we do things.
You just brought Brian Robinson. How important was it to get him, especially on that first series, to score like that? How important was it just to get him going?
It was, John. I think it created some energy for the team. You could feel the sideline, what they brought to it, and the downhill style of runs. When Brian can kick through and step and get on to the next level, he's really difficult to tackle. But I thought especially the offensive line tonight, that's the one I'm looking forward to watching on tape. I thought they had some really good blocks and good design, the whole way through.
And you talked about Terry getting involved early. Do you notice a difference in this team when he is involved early?
Yeah, I think that's true for like most impactful players, and that's good reporting by you. But the you're on your game too. Yeah, that's right. But to me, that part of him, he does bring energy, and create plays to go. But I thought having balance also helps John, in the run game, the pass game, and that's when we're at our best.
What was it about Jaden today? He just looks so much like he did in the early part of the season. What was sort of the difference?
Yeah, I thought so too, Nikki. I have to think that there's probably a side of just the competitor who he is, like the innate, talent, competitor, like all that goes into it. And then the next part of really going through all the practices, all the reps, and to see him do that, I thought that was a big deal. Even at practice this week, we had big wins, so we wanted to go into the win, not into the win, all the different ways, the things that we would do, and he just was kind of just ready for each of the challenges. But I think he was able to, fully express himself today. The runs, keeping, creating on the move, I would say all of those weren't the same play design. When the second play begins and he, some of his magic starts to take place, that was not in the book. There we go. Love the crowd noise from the side.
My colleagues asked you a lot of the game questions I wanted to ask. So you guys made a move yesterday with Emmanuel Forbes. What was the decision ultimately behind to release him?
Yeah, Marshawn's close. We talked about that. I think it was Friday. For him being back in it, and so when we made the decision to release him, really just the best opportunity for the team at this point. And I had a chance to visit with him, and I explained to him sometimes that the change of scenery is good, and I've seen other players, go to other clubs, and it, turns out differently, and sometimes that's a good thing. And I, so that can happen with you too. And so I wanted to, make sure he heard that from me. And there was even guys on his own team here, that had started somewhere else as a first-round player, and all of a sudden a different scenery and different shift with the new system can help. And so we wanted to wish him best on his football journey, wherever that goes from here.
And there's always narratives about where a team is, whether in whatever direction they're going in. There's been some lately where you always are struggling, things like that. For you going to this bye week, what's your takeaway? What would you say to people about right now? What's from your view, the narrative of what this team is at this point?
Well, one, they do need this break. I think that's a big deal for us going right, for a while here going. But to see us respond through the hard games, I think that's a big deal for us to know that there's a lot out there for us, and they do need this break. Our times together are really intense, as players and coaches, and so they've really put in the work. And that's one of the reasons I love coaching these guys is there's not, what are we doing or that. It's honestly been just the opposite. And looking at me, what do you want to, what's next? And so for them, I can't wait for this time, get a break, clear it out, and then we come back and we go after it really hard. And my message for them is, can we have the discipline to not look ahead? Can we really get our football in order and just, take it to the next one and take it to the next one? The narrative is always, so far out. Oftentimes people talk about what's there, and I'd much rather be, the most important thing is the fight that you're in. And so when we come back, I won't talk much about the month ahead. I'll talk about the week ahead, and knowing if we take care of those weeks, then they turn into more weeks. But I won't look ahead with them.
Take three more.
Yeah, and I know you got to look at the film, but just generally, it looked like the offensive line was creating some real cutback lanes and gave your back some real opportunities today. I just wonder what you saw from them, specifically from Lucas at right tackle and some of the other guys.
I felt that way too, David. Looking back, and I talked to Anthony after the game, he was the first one to say, I really thought the line, played well. And I sensed some of that on Wednesday at practice. There was a little more covering downfield. There was a little more pad level. And they really put in the extra in that time. I saw with Lucas playing over on the right side, wanting to get extra with Cosme before practice, after practice, on the combination blocks. Those are the things sometimes as a coach that, what do you see and what do you hear? What I saw was, one player asking to the next one, let's go through that again. Let's get the extra work, because Lucas had primarily played on the left. And so he'd worked sparingly on the right, but this week we gave him more onto that side. I thought that's a guy that was ready for the challenge. Obviously he's played it some in his career, but not as much this year. And so that was a big deal for us to get the extra work in with those guys.
What happened with Mathis today?
We elevated Carl, and so just in the spirit of competition. So Carl Davis been working at it hard, and so they'd kind of been battling, as we're going through for practice reps and where we're going. So it was just honestly just for me a coaching decision just to give Carl a shot, big square inside, and with Tony and the line coach and Bill and everybody else here, I know they know how to run the ball, and so we thought we'd give Carl a good go at that. He's been working at it hard, so we've had this competition really going internally on, and so that nothing more than that.
Last one, Nikki.
Frankie Luvu just kind of been a spark in every aspect. What has he provided the defense and the team overall, really?
Yeah, a lot. I think way back when, Nikki, when the opportunity to bring him here, he would be a part of an identity we wanted to be, of running, of physicality, of making plays. And so to add into that identity, you have to also bring in the players to help create that. And so I thought he's done a remarkable job of helping to establish that. I knew what the ball player would bring, blitzing, pass rushing. Yeah, that was on tape. I'd seen that. What I didn't know was the energy and love he brought, like as a teammate. And so that has been almost as impactful about the way that he cares for one another, the way he looks after his teammates, the way he goes for it hard. Like they see that in him. And so there's been this very good blend with him and Bobby, of like the one that's, like everything is squared away, with Wags, and he sees things you can see around a corner, and where Frankie brings all the energy to go. And so it's not the odd couple, but there's a side to that is a yin to a yang, and he's brought incredible energy to what we do. And so he's got that spirit about him.
All right, thanks.
All right, you guys have a good one.